Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. People like you and I are not supposed to be using lightsabers, and by people like you and I mean non-force sensitive normies. I mean, just look at a lightsaber. It's basically suspended superheated plasma that can immediately cut through almost anything. The blade has no weight, and the chances of you accidentally hitting yourself in combat seems extremely likely. Heck, you don't even need to hit yourself with a lightsaber. You could just accidentally touch it and ow. But still in the Star Wars galaxy, time and time again, non-force sensitives have picked up lightsabers for various reasons. Like a desperation to live, or maybe there aren't any other weapons available, or perhaps they lack the knowledge of how risky using a lightsaber is because they're suffering from traumatic brain injuries. I got in a lot of controversy a few years back because I claimed that Cad Bane was the top bounty hunter in the galaxy, not the Fets and not Asajj Ventress. What makes Cad Bane so dangerous is the fact that he simply is good at almost everything he does, force or no force. And he's surprisingly competent against the Jedi. I mean, he pulled off a holocron heist in the middle of the Jedi Temple from one of its most secure vaults. He's also battled several Jedi and gotten the better of them, and more importantly, he didn't lose his head in the process. After Cad Bane released Zero the Hutt from a Republic prison, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Quinlan Vos were sent to pursue the bounty hunter and bring him to justice. When the Jedi find Cad Bane, instead of running away as any rational being would, Cad Bane decides to pursue the Jedi for a separatist bounty. I guess Cad Bane does have one weakness, one that's shared by many bounty hunters, and that's money. But as soon as the fight starts, we begin to realize where Cad Bane's confidence comes from. There's a reason why he stays around to fight the two Jedi. Bane first takes out Quinlan Vos with some help from his droid Toto 360. That's Master Quinlan Vos, and he's no scrub. When Quinlan Vos gets knocked down, Toto 360 manages to grab his lightsaber and tries to spear Obi-Wan Kenobi in the back, but the Jedi Master easily avoids the lunge attack and ends up dual-wielding in Form 3, basically the ultimate defense against close-range rapid blaster fire. Now, Bane continues to keep his distance from Obi-Wan with his rocket boots, but ultimately the Jedi gets close enough to strike him with a kick. But if you look closely, while getting kicked backwards, Cad Bane actually manages to disarm Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you weren't impressed already, you should be now. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi, the same Jedi who high-grounded the Chosen One and turned him into a burnt quadruple amputee trapped inside of a plastic coffin. Now, Cad Bane then goes on the offensive with Quinlan Vos' saber and is disarmed relatively quickly by Obi-Wan Kenobi. But once again, Cad Bane turns his opponent's success into his nightmare. Bane, with his hands free, holds onto Obi-Wan and shocks him into oblivion. Bane ultimately survives his ordeal. He runs away, but on his own terms, more or less. Cad Bane is definitely one of the more impressive non-force sensitive fighters in the galaxy. If a Mandalorian is going to use a lightsaber of any kind, it's going to be the Dark Saber. Forged by the famous Mandalorian leader and Jedi Tar Vizsla, this beautiful blade became a symbol of leadership for the Mandalorians, and Pre Vizsla would use this blade to give his own power legitimacy. A Dark Saber combined with a suit of Beskar and all the other gadgets found on a Mandalorian's armor is actually quite a deadly combination. And that's why Pre Vizsla is confident to not go up against just one Jedi, but three, as far as we know. First, Vizsla fights Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he manages to last much longer than when Cad Bane fights him. I mean, Vizsla is even stupid enough to arm his foe with a lightsaber in the beginning of the fight. There's no honor in being an idiot. Still, as mentioned, Vizsla really does an excellent job and pushes Obi-Wan Kenobi on the defensive several times. Even when Pre Vizsla loses his lightsaber, instead of running away from Obi-Wan Kenobi, he decides to engage in a small round of fisticuffs. Finally, when the Death Watch leader has had too much, he sicks his Death Watch troopers onto Obi-Wan Kenobi. The next Jedi Pre Vizsla faces is Ahsoka Tano, another very talented duelist who likes to do a bit of Jar Kai. In close quarters inside of a tent, Pre Vizsla manages to quickly get the upper hand, forcing Ahsoka to retreat outside. A full-on battle ensues between Death Watch and a bunch of recently freed droids. Ahsoka Tano and Pre Vizsla are pretty much evenly matched until the Jedi lands a strike on the Death Watch leader's jetpack and sets it off. The Mandalorians are a bit too regressive for my taste. For instance, their leader is usually chosen through the trials of combat. So instead of getting a smart and good leader, instead you're just gonna get leaders who are good at fighting. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it's probably why the Mandalorians have struggled for as long as they have. When Pre Vizsla tries to use Maul and Savage Opress to help him win back Mandalore, he never realized that Maul had learned enough about his culture to use it against him. You see, Maul challenges Pre Vizsla to a duel, something that the prideful Mandalorian cannot turn down, and this, of course, leads to his death. Pre Vizsla does manage to get a few strikes in, but eventually the Force user was too skilled, his perception abilities too strong. Pre Vizsla tries every trick in the book, from slashing up the stone floor and launching fragments at Maul's face, tying up Maul's legs, to using his built-in wrist flamethrower to try to set Maul on fire. He even manages to disarm Maul, but unfortunately Pre Vizsla is just a mere human and unable to defeat the powerful former Sith assassin. Luke Skywalker is a big deal. He was the hero of the rebellion, the last or one of the last Jedi. Who knows why they named that movie the way they did. The point is, he's very important to the galaxy. But let's not forget, this moisture farmer from Tatooine almost died on a routine perimeter patrol on Hoth from exposure. To be fair, he hadn't mastered the Force just yet, but without his buddy Han Solo coming along, Luke Skywalker most likely would have died there. So what does Han do? Well, he uses Luke's lightsaber to cut open the Tauntaun's stomach and then shoves Luke inside of the Tauntaun to keep him warm. Han Solo's usage of a lightsaber here might not be all that impressive, but it's probably one of the most important uses of lightsabers in that period of galactic history. So it makes it on the list. Shortly after the Battle of Yavin, Luke Skywalker is imprisoned on the infamous Hutt moon of Nar Shaddaa by Jedi artifact collector Gracchus the Hutt. Han, Leia, and Chewie go on a rescue mission to Gracchus's gigantic death arena because, Hutts like live entertainment. At the same time, an Imperial commando squad has arrived to detain Gracchus for hoarding illegal Jedi tech. Gracchus sets off an EMP inside of the stadium and suddenly everyone's blasters no longer work. Luckily, lightsabers seem to be shielded from EMPs, and R2-D2 has found Gracchus's massive collection of lightsabers. And so Chewie, Han, and Leia holster their blasters and pick up lightsabers. Chewbacca is not intimidated by a lightsaber and the thought of impaling oneself with a lightsaber, so he goes into dual-wielding mode. Now all I really need to see is Chewbacca doing that in a live-action movie, and I'll probably be happy for the rest of my life. As an officer of the Imperial Security Bureau stationed on Mandalore, Moff Gideon took part in the Great Purge. During the chaos, the good Moff acquired the legendary Dark Saber. Although he never duels the Force sensitive, he does go up against the Mandalorian bounty hunter Din Djarin in one-on-one combat. Din Djarin wields the indestructible Beskar spear, and also his indestructible Beskar body. As badass as the Dark Saber looked, Moff Gideon was still at a bit of a disadvantage against Din Djarin's impenetrable armor. The Mandalorian is an expert at taking body shots and just eats every one of Gideon's blows. The Moff does lose the lightsaber ultimately, but he shows good awareness of the weight of the saber and uses good technique to keep himself in the fight. Shortly after Kylo Ren murdered his dad because he doesn't love him enough, Rey and Finn finds themselves confronting the confused dark-side Force user. Neither Rey or Finn were particularly skilled in lightsaber combat, but all signs pointed towards Rey being a powerful Luke Skywalker-like Jedi/manual laborer on a desert planet character class. She was supposed to be the one who ended Kylo Ren's reign of emo-ness, but when Kylo Ren sees Rey, she gets launched into a tree rather unceremoniously, which means it's up to Finn to try and take out Kylo Ren and protect Rey. Now, Finn has utilized lightsabers before, like during the skirmish at Maz Kanata's castle. He does alright, gets a kill. But I think it was like a friend who kind of recognized him, which is why he kind of has his arms out like he's preparing himself for a hug. His friend was probably thinking, hey, I haven't seen you on Starkiller Base for a while. Did you get out of the service? You have a cool jacket on. How's the private industry treating you? I mean, the other stormtrooper standing by was probably horrified by the murder Finn just committed. We can confirm that this stormtrooper who calls Finn a traitor is FN2199, one of Finn's old training buddies. And man, is he pissed. He also has a giant stun baton, which seems to be very well suited at taking out lightsaber-wielding former friends. If it weren't for Han Solo's hand cannon, Finn might have never made it to the last act, where he picks up Rey's lightsaber and engages Kylo Ren in a duel. Now, Finn's not stupid, he's just way too brave. I mean, sure, Kylo Ren took a bowcaster shot to the hip, but it's still Kylo Ren, one of the most powerful Force users of his era. Finn not only manages to not die immediately, he actually keeps up with Kylo Ren for quite a while and even tags him on the shoulder. Just a little higher, and then Kylo Ren probably would have been stuck with that helmet on for the rest of his life so he doesn't scare children as he's walking around. Ultimately, Finn is disarmed and then sliced up pretty bad, but man, it takes a lot of skill and nerves to do what he did. And he also ends up buying enough time for Rey to recover and take on Kylo Ren herself. I remember seeing this scene in the movie theater and thinking to myself, Finn has to be a little bit Force sensitive to at least pull this off. Aura Singh is kind of like Finn in the fact that she's kind of Force sensitive. Well, at least in Legends, she was actually recruited by the Jedi and trained up till she became a Padawan. She would then later on turn to a life of crime and then kill a Jedi Knight known as Mana Varidi and obtain her lightsaber. Using her stolen weapon, Aura Singh would become a Jedi hunter. She would kill the converted sand person and exiled Jedi Sarat Het on Tatooine. She would take out Jedi Master Pierce and Jedi Knight Jay McCall on Coruscant. She even tries to take out Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn and almost succeeds. Aura Singh was basically a dark Jedi who also liked doing bounty hunter business. But now in the official canon, Aura Singh no longer seems to have her Force abilities to call on. Still, imagine if you gave her a lightsaber, she'd do pretty well. Jar Jar Binks is one of those individuals who could potentially be a swamp jester, or perhaps an evil Sith Lord who was secretly behind everything, including Palpatine's ascension. During the Battle of Mimban in the Clone Wars, Jar Jar Binks somehow ends up in the middle of the fighting. No one really knows why the junior senator from Naboo is on the battlefield. Apparently, he's on a diplomatic mission to interact with the local Mimbanese. But anyway, during the battle, General Lan Teek was in charge of the 501st Legion and 224th Mud Jumpers, until he got hit directly in the chest with something extremely powerful. Jar Jar Binks ends up picking up Lan Teek's lightsaber. Later on, while Captain Rex attempts to attack a Separatist shield bunker all by himself, he's ambushed by a group of droids. Things look grim as he's knocked to the ground and about to get executed. But before that happens, Darth Binks comes out of nowhere and slices all the droids in half, and then almost cuts his own head off with a lightsaber. That last part was most likely just Jar Jar Binks trying to hide that he's a Sith Lord. Now, Jar Jar knows that without Captain Rex, Anakin Skywalker might not make it to the end of the war and become Palpatine's apprentice. So it's all according to the plan. General Grievous ends this list because he is one of the most dominant non-Force sensitive lightsaber duelists we've ever seen. He's killed dozens of Jedi and likes to collect their lightsabers. What makes him so deadly is the fact that he has 6 limbs, and his extremely powerful cyborg body allows him to keep up with Force-using fighters. He's bested everyone from Asajj Ventress to Obi-Wan Kenobi. We talked about this in depth in our last video. Grievous received an ample amount of tutelage under the skilled duelist Darth Tyrannus. His master was able to refine his brute strength and speed with knowledge of almost every lightsaber form available. So there you have it, guys. 9 non-Force sensitive, well, mostly non-Force sensitive individuals who are actually pretty good at using a lightsaber. So maybe that should inspire us normies to at least pick one up and try to kill someone with it. Okay, maybe that's not the right message. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.